The purpose of a story is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. Well, we're all stories. We all live in a network of stories. There isn't a stronger connection between people than stories themselves. I'm ready with yet another one for you. Ladies and gentlemen, and each one of you, welcome to the very interesting The Economic Times Cutting Tie Stories brought to you by the ET Edge Endless Stories of Life. I'm Mithun Upadhyay, your host, and delighted again to welcome you to yet another platform where it's all about knowing the other side of some great leaders. Well, so what's in store today? In today's episode, I'm honored to welcome a visionary leader, an engineer MBA with substantive offshoring and outsourcing experience across a spectrum of leading user companies like RP, SG, CESC, Power Group, Tata Motors Group, Unilever, Colgate, Tata Motors, and of course, a global captive Citigroup. And of course, a full service provider, TCS, for a large global clients with industry role in trade and regulatory bodies. What's more to add is that he's a very passionate human being, loving and always around to make things the best way possible. I'm very happy and delighted to welcome the one and only Mr. Sanjay Prasad, CIO, Digital and Business Head Experiences of RPSG CESC Power Group. Hi, sir. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to Cutting Tie Stories. How happy are you to be here with us?
Thank you, Nitin, and thank you for a very generous introduction. It's always good to be in such shows where you actually let some of the hair down and talk about things that you normally don't get to talk about.
Absolutely, and I'm very happy to be listening to the other side of you and so as our viewers. So before I kind of jump into the entire set of questions, I have this very important question that I would love to ask you because you have done your post-grad diploma in management from Accelerity. How was it being there and studying with the bright minds as you and your days in Jamshedpur? If you could talk to me about that to start with.
So, Jamshedpur is an idyllic town. If you have read Woodhouse, probably you will get that sense from many of his books and stories. It's called an oasis in the East, and it probably justifies all the monikers that are positively told about this particular steel city. Right. So it gives it's a good collage of both academia and industry. Some of the big captains of Indian industry have hailed from there, and they have also at the same time patronized management education in no small way. And that's how this synergy of a small town delivering in intellectual and output and capital is perhaps unrivaled. Obviously, it also has to match up with the metros where you have the mixes of the IITs and the IIMs. But yes, it's a good collage of both mind and body that helps you evolve as an individual.
I like how you say mind and body, and that's the place to be in. Pandemic or no pandemic, leaders such as you are often asked as to how they are taking care of their teams, nurturing them and helping them grow. Very seldom are leaders asked as to how they are taking care of themselves. Would love to hear your aspects and prospects on both the sides.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have had this fill from almost every speaker. Now that we are in the 15th month or 16th month of this pandemic and post-pandemic, unprecedented. And when it happened, and even now, we don't have a cookbook to go by.
Right.
Even the medicos are struggling to really define what the waves are and what can work as vaccines. At that point of time, there was no vaccine in the horizon, and the lockdown period gave a challenge which was not faced by any business contingency situation in the past, anywhere in the globe. So this was one time when actually the ICT teams came to the fore. They were always otherwise, good back office guys, making sure that the organization is running with its support. But here now, the engines of the organization, which actually helps you get that top line depended on how IT delivered.
True.
So people from IT infrastructure, IT security, and the application development teams were the ones which really sort of had to surface and be visible and be counted. And they remained engaged throughout that period. So there was not so much of an employee engagement or a team engagement issue on these teams. However, those team members who were, say, a couple of skip levels down, or who sort of belong to the back office support, were actually sort of isolated during this period. So it meant that you had to really double up and engage with them, talk to them, not about office, but mainly about how they were faring in life, uh, in terms of helping them out of any medical exigencies, and also understanding the overall family welfare, because during the lockdown everybody was cocooned to his or her establishment.
True.
So this engagement was very important to keep them engaged, and they should feel that they are also there as part of the team, especially the segment that I spoke about.
True.
Then, of course, there are people who work on processes, and this was the time actually one would go to them, pick up the phone, talk to them, and see how they could reinvent those processes sitting at home, and so that when they come back to office, some of the some of the marginal elements of the processes which grew over time, could they be eliminated? Could they be candidates of automation when things were much brighter? And actually what happened was some of the pieces of work that happened during that period became candidates of what you typically know as robotic process automation, or RPA. I'll talk about this a little later on some other context. So this was another area where you could actually get the innovation needle moving for those who were otherwise not on a day-to-day basis involved in operational work. Lastly, it was time to actually call up your medicos, your health workers that you were associated with, who in earlier times would have supported you, and who continued to do this work 24/7. So that gave a huge sense of satisfaction of being able to reach out and not call up because you have a problem, but because you are asking about their welfare, to see if there's something that you could do to alleviate their own level of anxiety that they were going through, and they continue to go through during these last 15 months. So the other aspect was, of course, motivating your team members to register for online courses to upskill themselves, because most of these courses, whether Udemy's and the like, were almost offering free courses or at marginal costs. So this was time to really make sure that whatever you could not do while you were in office work right through the day, you could actually pick up one or two skills that could be valuable and relevant when you were back.
I like how you explain the attributes of pandemic or non-pandemic, and a lot to take away from the first question that you answered right now. I'm gonna
So,
breathe back in the past a little.
Mithil, I
Yes.
think I missed out the other part, the second part of your question. In terms of what it made me realize was, of course, the value of all the household activities that we always took for granted.
Wow.
Though, in another sense of the cookbook term, I managed to disqualify myself from all these kitchen activities. So many of my friends have called up and asked, what's the formula to do this? So that's still a trade secret. And because I was creating more confusion and not adding up when it came to those activities. So that was one. It also helped me do a little bit of contemplation and writing. So whatever little, we are mainly guys who write technical papers, but in this particular case, it was actually something that came from the heart. And I called it from BAU, which is an acronym for business as usual, to business as unusual 2.0.
Oh wow, love thought. Love thought. Yes. So a lot in the personal front happened. You did write something. I would love to hear something that you've written in some other episode for sure. I was telling you about. I want to go, breeze past the early days of your life. How were you different from other kids at your age? And if you were to go back to the early years of your childhood, school or later college, maybe, were there any positive influences or incidents that shaped your foundation in these formative years?
Yeah, I think childhood was no different than any average child that you'd get to see. You would sort of maximize your pocket money, that whatever little you used to get, and instead of that occasional ice cream, you would go for that rare car racing video game, you know, suitcase with your classmates, once in a while, and that was what the excitement was all about. Of course, I must be thankful to my school, which gave a more than equal focus to both, what is curricular as well as extracurricular activities. So when I say extracurricular, it goes beyond, both indoor and outdoor sports
Oh,
as well
wow.
as intellectual pursuits. So you had your brand of hockey. If you break it a year into a trimester, hockey, football, and cricket, and that's where some of us really felt good when we managed to reach the semifinals of the Olympics in both the men's and women's segments after
True.
so many years. So,
True.
and we all collectively are responsible for neglecting hockey as a sport, and so that is one thing that I can reflect back, and something that we used to all, spend some time as part of your school life. Parents and teachers were obviously held at the highest esteem, and I could single out my father, my class 8 class teacher, and of course our school prefect, who actually left an indelible impact right through life, amongst all the teachers that we have had, both in school as well as in college.
Wow.
And one lesson that I learned during, it's a long story, so I won't talk about the story, but it was more to do about that perception is reality, even during
True.
school days. And that's a story which we can offline, talk about. It all revolves around chess and football. So some
Right.
of the time,
Right.
but yes, that did give me an opportunity to, learn it the hard way. Uh, Similarly, a little later, as we crossed school, organizational skills and team working skills also sort of were initiated in a way. So, if you have been to Kolkata or Calcutta, then they have this para concept locality.
Right.
And
Right.
I should say, we, teamwork is a better word, but yes, we initiated what we call as Doverland Games. It's like a mini Olympics,
Oh,
which
wow.
ran for 3 years for almost a 2 square kilometer area, covering all the sports of those days. Let me chess, carom, cricket, football, table football,
Wow. Very
quiz,
interesting.
just a minute, dumb charades. And so we had everything for everybody. So when I take back those learnings in the work life, I call it now as CSR development. So
True.
C for curricular, S for socio-cultural, meaning
Culture.
drama, theater, etc., and R is for recreational, which is your cricket, football,
Right.
all the sports. So this is that probably holistically makes up an individual, apart from the curricular work which you need to deliver anyway to keep the hearth running.
I like how different stages of life has given you so much to learn and look for, and get to know the fact that you play hockey back in the days. I'm going to go ahead with the next question. What advice would you give someone going into a leadership position for the first time ever?
So, obviously, you don't get to define that now you have moved into a leadership position. It's very, gradual, and one evolves as you move forward. But one thing I have learned it personally also is that you need to surround yourself with smarter people.
Right.
So when you move to a leadership role, you get a chance to hire people who are smarter than you or who can do that job better than yourself. It and also ensure that you are in smarter company than yourself. So otherwise that takes you into a sense of complacency that you happen to be the best amongst the lot, and that sense of trying to go that little forward will get muted. So in this respect, I'll just share a couplet in this respect is Tute sujan manaye jo tute sau bar
Yeah, wow.
Rahiman fir poiye tute muktahar. So I thought, being
Wow.
from Jamshedpur yourself, you'd be able to. So it basically says that even if you have ruffled feathers with, a wise friend of yours, make sure you mend those ways, because that's the company that will help you take you forward.
Absolutely. I love those lines, sir. Very, very beautifully put it together for us to understand, for our viewers to understand. I'm going to go ahead with my very interesting question that, do you have a moral compass when it comes to the way you lead your life in the professional or a personal space? And if you do, please share with us.
That's a tough one. Moral compass is a difficult tool,
Right.
and it actually gets derailed by what are known as life's magnets.
True.
So let me give you an example. If you have, we all believe in in trust,
Right.
and but trust should be balanced by data points. Otherwise, once you get accustomed to those data points, beyond after that, then that trust by itself stands on its own.
Right.
Otherwise, sometimes trust by itself may not be able to, only by itself may not be able to deliver the goods that you want to do.
Truly.
Then in terms of when you delegate work, make sure that you don't you still have the ability to understand what the work is and contribute as a leader, and not abdicate the responsibility completely. So in terms of a moral compass, there are two, three things that I would probably say, which would help you to understand that you have been in the right direction. One is, look at your ex-colleagues. You have left an organization, your
Right.
peers,
Right.
your subordinates. What do they talk about you now? So there have been cases where my team members, maybe they have been with me 15 years back, and maybe for a period of 5, 6 years. That's where you get to know. And they call up and tell me that, look, when we were together, I used to dislike the way you used to chide me in private. I always used to do that, chide somebody in private. And, we felt that you were suppressing us. And we felt that, there are too many lessons to be learned. But then over the years, we realized that these were the lessons which have, kept me in good stead as we moved from organization to organization, and as we moved with increasing responsibility. So that gives a lot more self-actualization than even the professional pride that one gets from doing a complex SAP project implementation in time, or filing your first patent, or even receiving a global innovation award. So those are very strong personal achievements. But the relationship with your team members, that stands the test of time, and that gives you
Absolutely.
that self-actualization as you progress in life.
Absolutely. Rightly said. It's about uh, stage by stage that you learn, you establish, you learn more and establish more. I'm going to go to the next question. What are the hobbies in your bucket list that are still left to be fulfilled?
So mm, uh, one thing was, during the lockdown itself, during the pandemic period, um, online chess was something that I have never been used to. I come from an era where we used to play across the board. Yeah, 2.5 hours, 40 moves. Now it's all speed chess, from test match to T20.
Correct.
And kids are excellent in this
Great
area,
job.
because they have been brought up in this playing, this 5 minute, 15-minute chess games. So that's one area. Dalliance with two beautiful languages, that is brushing up my French, and picking up a little Urdu. So this is one thing that is in the to-do list. In fact, given the other background, professional background I have, it's a little blasphemous, but you hear of comparative languages. Comparative literature is a stream, but comparative languages, is there something that we can look at English, Hindi, Bengali, French on one side, and COBOL, C, Python, and Julia on the other side?
Right.
So that is something which obviously takes a lot of it will take a lot of effort and understanding. But yes, that's something. Is there a thread that can run through all of these? Probably that will give some mind work.
Nice.
And of course, and do a little bit of writing as well. And leisure travel whenever it comes to the fore. And also, you mentioned hobbies, so I thought of skipping, but I think there's one important thing on the work front. There should be an attempt to leave a quiet yet unhindered legacy in your organization. So
right.
that's a huge task, but all I can say is miles to go before one can sleep.
Truly said. And I like the combination of learning French and, of course, Urdu on the side. And about writing, you've already started writing in the lockdown, so I'm sure you're only going to get better about it. And plus, what you spoke about literature and the names that you took, I'm sure you're already very good in literature yourself. I'm going to the next round of my conversations. This is called Straight from the Heart. You have to just complete the sentence. It's out of the syllabus, but yeah, we want to keep this for you as a surprise. So you have to just fill in the blanks. And the question to you is, yes, of course, after you're cutting chai. I love that. Life to me is
an enigma.
An enigma. Wow. Family is my
ecosystem.
Ecosystem. I balance personal life and professional life with
a lot of hard work, some candor, and with a mix of hobbies.
How sweet is that? One song that describes your journey.
That's a difficult one.
Got you in spotlight now.
Yeah, Zindagi Ek Safar Hai Suhana. So to put it in a positive note. Zindagi
Wow, what a great thought.
Suhana. That's the one.
Sir, do line, sir. Do line.
Let me share this secret also. I was always asked to sing to end parties, not run them. So I don't want to take that chance.
We are coming to the end of the episode any which way, sir. So do line, and you're just humming so well. So bas thoda musical do lines, sir, हमारे लिए.
जिंदगी एक सफर है सुहाना, यहाँ कल क्या हो किसने जाना.
Wow, beautifully. And last question before I kind of wrap this up is, how did you like our cutting chai?
I think this was one beverage session with a difference. That's all I can say.
Wow, it's with a difference, and of course it is. And with a personality like you adds in so much in the entire episode. I want to thank you for being a part of such a wonderful, wonderful story that you've shared with us. And all comes from an experience, the journey that you've been through and what you're going through. And I love what is in the bucket list to come your way. Thank you for joining us here, Mr. Sanjay Prasad. It was great having you. Remember, this is Economic Times, Cutting Chai Stories, brought to you by ETH. Catch you soon.
Thank you for having me.
In the next episode with much more that inspires and lets you go. Thank you again.
Thank you.